All right, good morning. For the grade 8s, you'll remember that we finished off with the algebraic expressions, and now we're going to move on to algebraic equations. So equations, very important, it's got an equal sign in your equation. So if you think back, you've actually started dealing with equations from a very young age. I think grade 1 or 2 even, you started dealing with these types of sums where it was a little block and it said what plus 2 is equal to 7. And in that block you had to say, all right, and we did this mainly with inspection. So we would have thought maybe 4 plus 2 is 6, no, 5 plus 2, yes, okay, the block, so the answer in the block you would have written in then is 5. So now in grade 8, we're going to start with a little bit more complex equations using the inverse operation. So actually from grade 1 or 2, you've actually started using equations. So in that little block, now that block gets replaced with a little x. So equations are very important. It's exactly what it says. It's an equation. The one side equals to the other side. So if you've got 6 plus 3 is 9, is equal to the same on that side, 10 minus 1, which is also 9. So that equation is correct. The one side is equal to the other side. So if I do something to the one side, if I minus a 2 there, so 6 plus 3 is 9, 9 minus 2 is 7. So that, to make it true for the other side, you also have to minus 2 on that side. So very important with equations, what you do on the one side, you have to do to the other side to keep that balance, to keep the one side equal to the other side. Or example, if you say 6 plus 3 is 9, 9 plus 6 is 15. So if you add 6 to that side, 10 minus 1 is 9, 9 plus 6 also gives you 15. So to keep the balance, very important, what you do on the one side, you have to do on the other side. So if you have an equation like this, x plus 3 is 10. So what we want to do, our main aim for equations is to get x, or it can be any variable that's used, an x, a y, a r, a s. We just mainly use x because it doesn't really look like any other number that we can get confused with. So the x, we want to get alone. So whatever's attached to it, we want to sort of move over to the other side, or we want to normalize it or make it so that there's nothing next to x, so that we've got the answer x is equal to, okay, and then the answer. So if we have this, x plus 3 is equal to 10. So to get nothing here next to x, we're going to plus 3. And what is the inverse of plus 3? A plus, the inverse of a plus is a minus. So x plus 3 minus 3 will give you 0 left here on this side. But remember, what we do on this side, we have to do on that side. So 10 minus 3. So if you take plus 3 minus 3, there's nothing left here next to x. So x is equal to 10 minus 3 is 7. And you can always go and check yourself. I know that with doing the baby sums, it's always easy, and the kids always say, oh man, but I can just, I just see the answer. I just know that it's 7 plus 3 is 10. I know that you can see this. But once we start with more complex equations, you have to know how to do you have to do it by not just knowing by inspection, but also by using these inverse operations. Okay, so like I said there, our main aim is to get the variable, which in most cases are x, but it can be anything else, alone, because by getting it alone you will then obviously find x. Okay, so let's have a look at example 1. X plus 6 is equal to negative 2. So what is next to x? Next to x is a plus 6. What is the inverse of plus 6? Minus 6. So we're going to x plus 6 minus 6, but what you do on the one side, you have to do on the other side. So x is equal to minus 2 minus another 6 is minus 8. And just check this side, how I normalize it. I always say that, but it's how did you get x alone on this side? By doing the inverse of plus 6. So plus 6 minus 6 gives you x plus 0, which just gives you x. And on this side, what you did on this side, you have to do on that side with the blue on top. So minus 2 minus another 6 gives you minus 8. And you can always test yourself. You can say, okay, my answer was negative 8. So if I can put in at the x value negative 8, minus 8 plus 6 gives you negative 2. Okay, so you can see that your answer is correct. So you can actually test all your answers by inspection. Okay, so you can even mark your own test when we when we give it to you. All right, so over here, example 2, 10 equals to y minus 2. So did you see the variable was changed with the y? Doesn't matter, we're just finding, we want to find the unknown. So 10 is equal to y minus 2. What is the, okay, so what is next to y? There's a minus 2. So what is the inverse of minus 2? It's plus 2. So you're going to, on this side, the right-hand side, y minus 2 plus 2 will normalize it, will give you equal to plus 0 or minus 0, but that falls away. It doesn't, you know, it's nothing. So y is alone. But what you did on that side, plus 2, you have to do on this side as well, plus 2. So then you get 10 plus 2 is 12, and that is equal to y. Y is equal to 12. And you can flip this around to just write y is equal to 12. It doesn't matter. There's nothing with the signs that changes because they're both positive. You can just flip them around to get y is equal to 12 if you want to always write the variable first. Okay. Then if we look at example 3 there on top. Okay. Now we're adding a little bit more towards or on x's side. So now we've got 1 minus 2x equal to 5. So just very, very important. I want to explain to you just one thing that you need to remember. The sign in front of the term it goes with that term. So if you have a look here, there's 2 terms. So there's 2 terms. That x, there's something attached to that x. And it's a negative 2 that's being multiplied with that x. You first get rid of the loose terms, and then whatever's attached to the x, you try and multiply or divide away. And I'll explain to you as we go forward. But just very important, whatever's on x's side, the loose terms, you try and get away first. So that 1 we want to get away. Then what is left, what is attached to the x, then that is where it's normally a multiply or a divide, and then you do the inverse, the opposite of multiply and divide. So the opposite of multiplication is division, and the opposite of division is multiplication. Okay, so let's have a look. 1 minus 2x is equal to 5. That 1 over there is loose. Here's a loose term, and it's here on the x's side. We don't want it there. So how do we do the inverse? Just please remember the sign in front of that term goes with it. So that's a positive 1 sitting over there. So positive 1, what is the inverse of positive 1? Minus 1. So you're going to minus 1 on each side. Then you're going to, please remember that negative 2x, that is what's left, not a positive 2x. Lots of you will just somehow make that negative a positive. So that negative stays with that term, and you are left with negative 2x is equal to 5 minus 1 is 4. Okay, so then your next step is, what is happening to x? What is happening to x? It's being multiplied by negative 2. What is the opposite of multiplication? Division. So you're going to divide with negative 2 to get x alone. So do you see that? Whatever's in front of the x, if it's being multiplied with negative 2, you divide away with negative 2. And then that will cancel out. And you are left with that x. But what you do on the one side, you have to do on the other side. So 4 divided by negative 2. Remember your snare. A positive divided by negative is a negative. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. So there's your answer. X is negative 2. Then just a few exceptions, especially with the signs at the end. Just want to explain to you 2 more examples. So if you've got 4 minus x is negative 2. So what is there with the x's side? There's a positive 4. What is the opposite of a positive 4? A minus 4. So we minus 4 on that side, we minus 4 on the other side. And then what is left? Very important, a negative x. Ne? Negative x is equal to minus 2 minus another 4 is negative 6. So I always say, if you've got 2 negatives on each side, the 2 negatives cancel each other out, but actually what you are doing is you are dividing with a negative on that side to get x away. Remember, the x is being multiplied with a negative, and you divide a negative on that side. And a negative divided by negative is a positive. So just to make it easier without dividing the whole time with a negative, you can just remember if you've got negative x is equal to, let's say, negative 10, the two negatives cancel out, and thus you are left with x is 10. Okay, just, sorry, very quickly something. Do you see that I don't write this is equal to this is equal to that? Because you're working with equations, it doesn't make sense if you're going to say 4 minus x is equal to negative 2 is equal to 4 minus x is equal to negative 2. You cannot have an equal sign over here on that side. Okay, please, if you're OCD like me and you have to write something, we write the thus sign. Thus, this is this. So that if you work with equations, please, people, you do not write equations here on that side. Okay. Then example 5, you've got 6 minus x is equal to 8. So just to show you what happens if you've left with one negative and it's in front of the x. Again, you're going to divide away with a negative, but just for easy sake, what I always tell my kids is you passing that negative over. You're allowed to do that. If you've got one term on the one side and one term on the other side, you're just allowed to pass that negative over to the other one, because we don't want negative x. Wherever did I ask you find negative x? No, I asked you to find x. Okay, so please, never ever do you leave your answer as a negative x is equal to 2. Okay, so 6 minus x is equal to 8. So on this side, what is the opposite of positive 6? Minus 6. So you minus 6 on both sides. Then you are left, please remember that negative. Negative x is equal to 8 minus 6, which is 2. And now, because you've got a negative x is equal to 2, all I say, if you've got one term on that side, one term on that side, you just pass that negative over to the number on the other side. But what you're actually doing is negative x is equal to 2. You're dividing with a negative because that's being multiplied with the x, né? And divide with a negative there. So then you've got thus, do you see? X, negative divided by negative is a positive x, is equal to 2. A positive divided by negative is a negative, and 2 divided by 1 is 2. Okay. And people, that is equations. So please, if you are struggling as you are doing the exercise, log on or just go to your Teams and ask your teacher to maybe phone you or send her a message throughout doing the exercise. This has taken now 12 minutes, or the video is about 13 minutes. So please use the rest of the time to do the exercise. The exercise is 10.2 on page 120, and there's about it's A to S. Okay, and we will send you the memo then through tomorrow once you've done it. Okay, enjoy and good luck.